Looking generally now, and moving away from that one, we've got Mr. Dayo Akintobi here with us. Also had to wade through the traffic this morning. Good to see you again today.
Always a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so this easing of the lockdown in Lagos generally, I mean, different authorities have been doing different things. Now, what have you seen? I know it wasn't easy getting here this morning.
No, my experience this morning speaks to the fact that the easing of the lockdown has taken on a totally different dimension from what government intended. For one thing, the borders between states are closed. There's supposed to be no interstate traffic. People are still only supposed to be going to work only for essential duties per se. But it took me all of 2 hours to get from Ilupeju to your studio this morning because the roads are completely packed with people. People are crossing the border willy-nilly. It's as if there are no restrictions at all.
The intention of the traffic this morning was as a result of the intention of security operatives to block interstate travel, enforce the curfew between 8 p.m. and 6 a.m. So maybe that is why that went that way.
That's what affected you.
This was about this was about 6:20, 6:25 this morning, and ordinarily the traffic should have eased from about 6:10, 6:15, but as at almost 6:30, it was still a standstill. So generally now, talking about this, enforcement of the lockdown, it would seem like the people don't have the communication. The people in this traffic didn't have that kind of communication.
No, the people in this traffic are most, among the masses in general, sensitization is very low. The attitude of people towards this easing is as if to say the lockdown has been cancelled completely. Restrictions are all gone. Life is back to normal. You go out to the markets, you go to the banks, you go to places where, even in public transport, you go to places where people congregate and you see there's no respect for social distancing. The people who are wearing masks are doing it for fear of apprehension, not because they particularly believe it is a preventive measure for themselves.
Why do you say that?
Because as a journalist, I've been out there talking to people.
Well, by the way, that image, it's an amateur video. We always told him, keep your hands steady, Mr. Man. The person that shot it, he knows himself. So we told him, keep your hands steady. Don't put a cameraman here under pressure. But they know sometimes, yes, you just have to come down from the vehicle and get some of those images.
Yes.
Do you think there should be a conversation between states now? I mean, Lagos, remember they did announce certain people could come to work, then they changed. But Ogun says, no, well, even if you are working in a neighboring state, you will not be allowed to move. Should there be a handshake?
Yes, there should, because once you've said essential workers can go to work, there are a lot of people, because Ogun is a neighboring state to Lagos, and a lot of the overflow from Lagos has shifted in the direction of Ogun State. So it's almost prohibitively impossible to say people in Ogun State shouldn't go to work in Lagos and shouldn't go back home. So there should be some kind of dialogue between the two states that allows some measure of interstate exchange. I don't think you can successfully shut down the border, and I saw it this morning. Impossible to do. Tankers, trailers, workers, public transport, all of us were in the middle of it. I think there's too much of an interwoven, interlocking interaction between Lagos and Ogun State to shut it down completely.
But would you lay down that just on Lagos and Ogun? Because, Lagos-Ibadan Expressway is Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, not just Lagos-Abeokuta Expressway, not just Lagos-Shagamu. And so one would wonder if indeed it was just between Lagos and Ogun as opposed to being Lagos and other parts of Nigeria.
Well, because we haven't actually started using rail yet, I don't think we've got to the point where people in Oyo State can work in Lagos and commute on a daily basis. By the time they finish the Lagos-Ibadan train, yes, we can see that, and that will actually decongest the area a little bit. But many of the people who are living on the Ogun State end of Lagos actually don't go beyond, I would say, Mowe. So by the time you're now passing the Shagamu interchange, that is now proper interstate travel.
Exactly.
People who are leaving, not workers who are commuting any longer. So I think Ogun should be the focus.
Okay, that's just one, but there are many other interstate borders all spread all over Nigeria as well. So one wonders if it's the same kind of thing. But then it's the challenge now of the enforcement or the effectiveness or otherwise of this interstate lockdown and the curfew that Mr. President pronounced?
Well, that's why the governor read the Riot Act yesterday, because observing generally, you look at it and you recognize the fact that the restrictions still in place are not being strictly adhered to. Enforcement is a little bit lax. By virtue of the fact that you've allowed some movement, you've eased some of the restrictions, we have a tendency to be generally indisciplined as a people. And so we've just taken that and run riot with it, simply because they've said, okay, you can come out of your houses, but we still have certain days that we can go to market. Markets are not open every day. Banks have restricted hours. So there are still restrictions in place that people should adhere to keep this idea. See, COVID-19 is person-to-person transmission. That's the only way it spreads. So to conquer it, we do absolutely have to minimize person-to-person contact.
All right, then, Mr. Dayo Akintobi, thank you very much indeed for coming on. Of course, we'll do this again as we progress, but we're back in a moment. Stay with us.